It's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be better. I can't wait. Making my move. Live for the day. Sing like a bird. Fly like a plane. Come spill with me. Jenny D.
Hello, my beautiful people. It's me, Jenny D from Spill With Me, Jenny D podcast. I'm so excited. I am here at Clair Health with these two beautiful ladies. They're doctors, okay? Today's Spill With Me, Jenny D episode is brought to you by Clair Health. The local health system welcomed its inaugural class of resident physicians earlier this month as part of its ongoing transformation into a teaching hospital. I'm so excited. Here to talk to us more about the graduate medical education at Clair Health and its benefit to patients are Dr. Kristin, Livesey, and Mallory, Ciuksza. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited. They're so beautiful and young. If you're listening and not watching my YouTube, oh my gosh, these girls are beautiful. Girls.
Thank you.
Ladies are beautiful.
We'll take all the compliments.
Yeah, I am just so excited to talk about this because I think a lot of my audience and listeners are not going to know a lot about how you're teaching hospital, Clair Health. So let's get into some of these questions. For listeners who may not be familiar, what exactly is a graduate medical education or the GME?
So I'll sort of start at the beginning of the journey for a lot of our residents. So they have all completed their undergraduate education. So they have gone to college for 4 years. Then they have done medical school, which has been anywhere between 3 and 4 years. And then they start their graduate medical education career with us, doing their residency. And for internal medicine, the residency training program is 3 years long. And they are doctors at this point. So they've gotten their doctoral degrees, either MD or DO. And then they are spending this time really honing in on their skills so they are able to practice medicine independently by the time that they graduate. So they are working very closely with their preceptors who are trying to instill all of the knowledge, skills, know-how of how we practice medicine outside of the textbook knowledge that they have learned to get these residents to the point that they could practice independently. And we are hoping that many of them wind up practicing primary care, like Dr. Ciuksza. Some of them may go on to practice specialties, so going into areas like cardiology, GI from our program.
So different things like that. Mm-hmm. Now, that was, which one of you went to Westminster?
I did.
Yeah, Westminster College in New Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
I went there too.
Oh, there you go.
When I was listening to the other podcast, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I did.
We might be sorority sisters. I don't know. I love that school. It was so nice.
I had a great experience.
Experience. I know, because I was listening and I was like, okay, somebody was New Jersey and then they moved back to Pittsburgh.
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah,
okay,
that's me. It's New Jersey.
Like you guys how long have you been here in Pittsburgh?
So I have been in Pittsburgh on and off for 20 years. So I moved from New Jersey, went to Carnegie Mellon, and then I went to medical school at the University of Pittsburgh. And then I went to UPMC for my residency, and I did their physician scientist training program. And then I did my residency there and moved briefly to Boston. I worked at Mass General, and I was at Harvard Medical School for a few years, and then came back here, worked at UPMC again, and then I found really my home here. I love Clair and everything that it is about. And this is why I feel so blessed to be able to start a residency program here, because it is such a special place to practice medicine, and the patients are fabulous, and the nursing staff is unlike any other place that I have been.
You can't beat Pittsburgh. Our health system is great here. Now, where were you? Are you born here?
Yeah, I was born in Minot, North Dakota.
Because
my dad was in the Air Force. The reason that most people are in Minot.
Right.
But they are from here. So my dad was actually born at Clair. And my parents grew up in Bethel Park, but I grew up in North Huntington. And then I went to Pitt for a year in Westminster College. And then I went to Drexel in Philadelphia for medical school.
Nice.
And I came back and I did a rotation here. And my best friend introduced me to my husband. And so then I did all my rotations here in medical school. And so I did my residency training at Allegheny General. I did a chief year there, which is like an academic year. And then I started looking for a job where I could learn a little bit more how to do the work before I started teaching. So I really wanted to have some breadth and depth of experience. So for the last 8 years, I've been at St. Clair with Dr. Rosselli, and we've been building our practice. And I see patients in the office, and we do still round in the hospital, but that's a smaller part of our job. We see our patients here too.
Right.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love having you guys here.
Thank you.
We're so lucky. Is it true that residency programs can help to ensure continued access to high quality healthcare in our community, but now and in the future?
That's a big part of the reason that this program was started.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mean to go for it. So, primary care doctors are at a huge deficit nationally. I think a couple of years ago, the number was like 178,000 in 5-year deficit was planned. So it's a huge problem. There just aren't enough of us doing this work to take care of communities. And locally, we have an older population. The joke at St. Clair is we take care of the elderly and their parents.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It is an older population here.
Yeah.
And so people who are older have higher care needs. And so there aren't enough of us to go around. But residency programs help to train up new doctors to do this work. And a huge part of our mission and goal is to keep these doctors with an option to stay in the community. We're not compelling anyone to stay, but we want them to fall in love with this place and to feel really good about working here. And whether or not they go on to do big, bright things elsewhere, that's also great. But we want at least for them to see what community medicine can look like.
Oh, I love that.
In a really positive kind of idealized light. And we work really hard at that.
Oh, I love that. Did you want to add anything?
The other beauty of starting this residency program is residents come from all over the country. They've gone to various different medical schools, and there is an influx of knowledge and experience from all those different institutions that they bring here to St. Clair. And they already have a ton of fresh ideas and things that they can bring to the table. We're already providing excellent care here, but they can really take us to the next level with a lot of the fresh ideas that they've seen from elsewhere.
I love that. It's like collaborating and, you might have this idea, somebody has this idea. I love that because, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people would always think like, well, one doctor says this, but the other doctor said they're not communicating or they're not on the same, but that's the hardest thing is when because people don't leave their doctor. Once they have their primary care doctor, usually people stay with them, for
a long time.
Yeah. Right.
And you hit the nail on the head about something that is so important and residents can help with is communication. So residents have a lower patient panel and they see less patients in the hospital than we do typically as attending. So they have more time to spend with you as a patient. And they really have time to dig into your story and hear what's important to you. And I mentioned earlier that teaching communication skills are so important to me, and that's part of my personal story and my identity as a physician, and it's something that is really integrated into this program to really have the residents be thoughtful about understanding the patient's story, not just the illness that they came in with. How does that illness impact that patient's life, and how can we work with that patient to really collaborate and build a plan together that helps their life outside of the hospital?
Yes, I love that because, it's so true. Because if you think about it, did you have somebody, when you were a resident, did you have somebody teach you?
So, and we all did. So there are so many mentors that you can point to. And then some of the people who taught me the most were actually the patients. I go back to various different diagnoses that I see now, and I can remember the patient that I saw that had that who taught me about it and told me their story. And that's how I learned about that diagnosis, because that patient took the time to explain it to me.
Wow.
When you're thinking about what is residency and what are the people that you're going to interact with, I think one of the ways I explain this to my patients is that residents are doctors, but they're gaining experience in a highly supervised setting.
Right.
So every order they put in, every note they write, every interaction they have via, text communication with the nurses, I review all of that. And then we give them really thorough and thoughtful feedback on the whole process. And that is really a difficult thing if you think about that level of supervision.
Right.
But what it does is it does open up the communication with the patients too, because we're really asking why, and the residents are asking why over and over and over again. Why did this communication happen this way? And it really helps us to understand the patient care at a much deeper level. And that's something that you just don't have time for when you're seeing 18 patients a day in the office, right? And so that's, it's a much deeper form of learning and a much deeper form of patient communication.
I'm so glad you said that, because sometimes, this was years ago when I had other doctors. It was like, next, I felt like I didn't have time to say everything. So I was that person, that commercial with all the Post-it notes. I was like, I have this, my feet are this hurts, my knees hurt. Like I had all these, things that I was like, wait, I want to talk about this.
That's good. You came with an agenda. We like that.
And I looked like, oh, this woman, she needs mental health. No, but I really felt like I was being rushed. And you don't, as a patient, you don't want to feel rushed. You want to be comfortable with your doctor and be able to talk to them and speak to them about things that maybe you wouldn't speak to, another doctor, or like a female doctor or a male doctor,
And the reality of healthcare in America, and it is deeply broken, and we are, set to timeframes. But one of the things that we can teach residents to do is set agendas with you. So if you came into my office and you said, I have this big list of things to do, and I would say, okay, Jenny, but we also have to talk about this list of things that I have to talk to you about because these are important for your long-term preventative care.
Right.
So we would make an agenda together. Okay, we're going to talk about the first 5 things on your list and a couple of things on my list. And then if we don't get to everything, we'll schedule another appointment and we'll come back. So you make sure that you have thorough and thoughtful consideration of each problem rather than just going through yes, no, yes, no. That's part of it too. You have to teach residents how to do that work. You have to teach residents how to interact with patients in a collaborative way where we mediate with as much time as we do have, how much we can get done for each patient at each visit.
I love that. Thank you so much. You're great. I want to see both of you.
Please do. We're here.
What makes St. Clair an especially meaningful place to train the next generation of physicians, particularly those specializing in internal medicine? Tell me a little bit about internal medicine. I mean, I feel like I know, but I don't know. I'm like, tell me a little bit about it.
Sounds like my mom. My mom, our family members will be like, so you were in the OR the other day. I'm like, no, I'm an internal medicine doctor. I'm definitely not in the OR. Yeah. So internal medicine is a general field. We take care of adult patients that have a variety of medical conditions. You could work as a hospitalist like I do. I'm hospital-based. So I see basically any patient that comes into the hospital with a medical diagnosis, so a non-surgical problem. So if a patient does have a surgical problem, the surgeon may ask me and say, oh, they have other medical diagnoses. Can you help with their blood pressure while they're here, their pain management? So we also see those patients. We're kind of like a jack of all trades. And then internists can also practice as a primary care physician in the outpatient setting and be like your point person outside of the hospital. Really, again, it is one of the hardest jobs in terms of... I don't know how Dr. Ciuksza does it. It is one of the hardest jobs to take care of the whole of your patient over time and really think about the big picture. And we're oftentimes the people who put the big picture together. We're not just thinking about the little details. We are putting the whole picture together.
Right. And that's what you need. So what makes it so special here at St. Clair?
So St. Clair is a nationally recognized hospital for quality, and we have nationally recognized nurses here. We have an incredible clinical setting, and that's in part because we sit in a city that's so rich with medical education in other ways. So St. Clair's sort of a setup to have a medical education program, and we just learned in talking with the administration not too long ago that they've been planning for this since 2007 because it really makes sense to have learners here that's something that's for a lot of reasons in terms of the breadth of patients that we see, the sickness of those patients.
Right.
We have a lot of sick people here. One of the residents commented to me last week when we were on service together rounding in the hospital. She said, "These people are sick." And I said, "Yeah, Kaylee, they're in the hospital."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why they're here. They wouldn't be here.
And there's this perception that when you work in a community hospital that people aren't as sick as if they're in a transplant facility or one of the downtown settings. But I think one of the things that Kristin identified, and she always loves to talk about, I'm going to steal it from her, is that we're often the first point of contact for a new illness. So we're the ones making the diagnosis. And if you have a problem where you need to go downtown for a specialist in a super subspecialty field, that care often starts and that diagnosis starts in a place like this. So community hospitals are fantastic places to train. And we're also situated in a setting where we are close to downtown. It's a nice place to live.
Yes. I delivered both of my boys here.
Yeah, there you go.
It was like the best because I was down at McGee with my daughter and it wasn't the same because here I was in one room, I had the delivery in the one, it was just, and they treated me like royalty. I loved it. Okay. Anyway, all right, back to, I get sidetracked. What are you most proud of as an integral class begins their training? Like, what are you most proud of?
So I think that a lot of what our vision was for this program came to life. Earlier today, I asked the residents for some feedback about our program.
Yes.
And a lot of their favorite parts of the programs were things that were so important in how we structured and conceptualized this program. So they told us that they felt safe in the program, psychologically safe, that they felt like we were a safety net as faculty, that they could make mistakes when we were discussing patients and that we would course correct them, and they felt okay with that.
Right.
Because you want those mistakes to happen in an honest way in conversation before they
Not in practice.
Yes.
And if they feel confident and comfortable talking to us, then we can keep that from turning into patient harm in the short term or long term because of an education gap or deficit.
Right.
So that is incredibly important. They also picked up on a lot of the things that we discussed about the culture here.
Yeah.
And they've only been here for 3 weeks. And they said how special the culture is here, that this is really, some places will say that they're a community hospital, but St. Clair really rallies around that. And they hear that in conversations with the nurses. One of the residents overheard a conversation where the nurses were discussing, we should have helped out that other team member more. And that's the kind of place that we are, where we're thinking about everybody else as part of the team and how we can help out.
I love that. You're not like an individual. You're not here to just do your job and you're out. You are collaborating with each other.
Yes.
You're teaching each other. I love that. So they've only been here 3 weeks.
Yes. And they're already picking up on some of those themes.
Yes.
And they are also taking this very professionally and seriously, all of the things that we have built in terms of Dr. Ciuksza has a really detailed and excellent approach to onboarding the residents to what being a primary care physician looks like. And they're really just being so serious about doing an excellent job for their patients.
Yeah. It's been really cool. So we, before I see patients in clinic, I prepare, right? I saw 3 new patients this morning and I told each of them, my job today is to learn as much as I can about you to take good care of you moving forward. I did my homework and now I want to make sure that I got it right. So I'm going to ask you all these questions. And then after that, I want to hear about, what your concerns are today, and I'll get to as much as I can. But that process of pre-visit prep, of where we really learn about patients in the morning and what's been happening since the last time they were in the office with us, is so essential to building patient trust. You need to know that I cared about you before you came in and that I took that time to learn about you and to make sure that I was prepared for this visit. And I have just been blown away by how seriously the residents are taking that and how seriously they are showing up for their patients already. Like, taking the time to learn about them like that. A lot of doctors, practices look different everywhere, but not everyone practices that way. And for me, that's huge in helping to feel good about the work that I do and not get burned out. And so there's so many inputs. There's so many reasons why that's important. And it's been so cool to watch them do it.
I so appreciate that because when I was switching doctors last year, I don't even know when, they didn't have my records from my other doctor. So they didn't know, anything about me. So I kind of felt like
we don't always get
to know.
Yeah. But you learn what you can, right? You go through the chart and you figure out as much as you can and you figure out where there are gaps and then you ask the question, right?
And then you fill out the form where it's, where your family history and so, and then I'm always like, Mom, do we have, I'm like, I don't know. Do we have this? Do we have that? So you're trying to like catch up on all that too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the truth. It's like you're learning from each other, as a patient and the doctor, and I love that relationship. I'm so glad you said that you really get to know your patient before they even come in.
Yeah.
That's so great. Can you share a bit about I don't know if we talked about this, about the residents who make up your first class? Is this your first class? Oh, okay. Yes. What are their interests? Where are they from? And what do they bring to the community? Are they all from here? Or are they all from different places?
So they're from all over. So we have 8 internal medicine residents that have started with us. There are 6 that have direct ties to this community. And that was very intentional because, again, we were thinking about how do we bring in physicians that can train in this community and potentially stay in this community. There are 2 residents that have connections here. One is from Cincinnati and travels here frequently to come to Temple. Oh. The other resident trained in Michigan, so he's sort of Midwestern. He has a very interesting background in that he did a narrative medicine master's at Columbia. So you've heard us talk a lot about the patient story and communication. So he really understood the mission of who we were, and that's how he found his way here. And he is very special, and we are also seeing his communication skills play out with patients. But they have varied interests. Some are interested in pursuing internal medicine as a profession. Some are interested in pursuing specialties. This time, over the next 3 years, is really time for them to explore and figure out what they want to do with their careers.
Oh, so it's 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's when they kind of can figure out where they want to go.
They're with us for 3 years, getting that really intensive experience that we are supervising really closely. And then after that, they can determine, do they want to go into primary care? Do they want to be an oncologist? Do they want to be a cardiologist? Do they want to be a hospitalist? So they have a lot of options.
Right.
We also have a resident who's an MD, PhD, who's super research focused. We have an author who's published, I think, 2 books.
2 books.
Wow.
We have, she illustrates.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So the skill sets of these people and the varying kind of points of experience that they're bringing and where they're coming from, it's really cool. It's really cool to see them kind of all together finally. We've been preparing for this for 3 years.
Wow.
And so we've been talking about them for 3 years, and now they're here. And it's been a really exciting 3 weeks, a tiring 3 weeks. Yeah, a really exciting 3 weeks.
And it's so nice because you can see in each of them why they really have the right fit for St. Clair. And we were very methodical about how we recruited these physicians to come, and they just really have the right mindset. They are so open to feedback and growing and learning, and that is the thing that honestly unifies all of them. And they're just a fabulous group. We could not be happier.
That's like the number one thing. You want them to be like a sponge. Like, I want to learn from you. I want to see what you
they
do.
all are.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is the single thing that we could ask for, is just being so open-minded to learn and grow. And we're hearing that from the nursing staff too. That is the number one thing that they tell us about the residents, because we ask them for feedback also.
Right. Because they're learning from the nurses as well.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Constantly.
Yeah, constantly.
There are a lot of people here that they're learning from, and we continue to learn from. And so we model that, right?
Right.
And we have, in the outpatient setting, we have an interprofessional half-day rotation where once a month, basically, they're going and spending a half a day with a medical assistant, a half a day with a nurse, a half a day with a phlebotomist, a half a day with an administrator. Because we want them to understand the context of medicine in the whole space. And so they know what other people are doing. Because the more you understand about someone else's job, the more empathy and compassion you have, and the more you can speak to what you can realistically ask of that person and what are the kind of the terms and limits of what they do. I think that's really important for their education.
So I love that. It's like the role. You want to see what kind of role they play. And what, like you said, you don't know what they do.
Yeah.
You find out that, my gosh, it's stressful, or they have a long day, or they have to get so much done before they can even go home, or that is really great. I'm just like so interested in this. I hope you're all enjoying this. Okay. So why is it important for the community to understand and support graduate medical education?
They are basically playing a role in training their future physicians.
True.
The patients really have such a strong voice in what the education looks like for the residents, because hearing what a particular patient is experiencing through their own voice is what will teach the residents the most about how to take care of patients. And we want them to learn more than just the textbook of how do I treat this condition. They need to hear from the voice of the patient, and that is the thing that needs to stick with them.
Right, that's true. And having patience with your patient.
Yes.
Patience with your patient. Because sometimes people might be just like, I need to, and they might be a little bit rude or whatever. So you have to be able to adjust to that too as doctors, right?
Yeah, I think when I am tempted to lose patience with patients.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. It's often because I feel helpless, right?
Right.
I can't make the situation better, and I know it's not good, and I know you should get access to this medication, but you can't afford it because your insurance won't cover it. And that's an arbitrary and stupid decision that I can't control. Right. And so I think oftentimes when we're working with patients too who have big feelings, difficult feelings, right? It's about getting on the same side of the problem with the patient. So the problem is not between you and me. The problem is out here, and we're both trying to solve it.
Right.
And so having the residents see that and be able to model that they're always on the side of the patient. We're always on the same team. We may not be saying the same thing at the same time, and we may have to learn to mediate difficult communication. But, by and large, our goal is to take really good care of you, and that's what you want too. So, conflict dissolves pretty quickly when you can get on that same team.
I like that. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So where might patients encounter internal medicine residents during their care at St. Clair Health? And how does having these residents at St. Clair Health benefit patients directly? I don't know if we already answered.
So they will see the residents basically throughout the organization. Yeah. So in the outpatient setting, so in some of the primary care sites and some of the subspecialty offices, so like in the endocrinology practice, for example, in our family practice office, there will be residents there. And we are adding some additional sites, so they'll likely see them in some of the other outpatient sites. If you come into the emergency department, there's currently emergency medicine residents that are there that are actually third-year residents through UPMC. We will now have internal medicine residents and transitional year residents, because we also have a transitional year program. There are 12 residents within that program that will be in the emergency department. If patients are admitted into the hospital, they might wind up on a teaching service. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to think, maybe more like Scrubs of a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what is the best, but like we do the
Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
I like
Scrubs, and Scrubs is coming back. So,
oh, thank God.
But more of like the structure that you're used to, where there's an attending and two residents, and they round on you, and we go through the entire presentation of what we think is going on, and we do that with you as the patient included, so you can be like, actually, no, the pain is over here. And you get to hear our thought process about what we're thinking and include you in that conversation. And the residents will also be rotating in some of the surgical areas. So lots of different settings. And the benefit, like we talked about to the patient, is the residents have more time to spend with you, more time to talk to your family, answer questions. They also have very close supervision. So you also have more attending time to think through your case and add on, and maybe think through some of these smaller, less common diagnoses that maybe I didn't have time to go through when I was seeing 18 patients myself.
True. Yes. I love that.
We've talked a lot about the internal medicine residency because that's what Kristin and I are in charge of, but the transitional year residency also deserves a word here because our amazing colleague, Dr. Pat Sleckman, who I recruited here and I'm very proud. I trained him. He is in charge of the transitional year program. And the way to think about that is that the radiologist who reads your mammogram, et cetera, right? That person needs to have an understanding of basic and fundamental medicine and surgery in order to be able to then specialize and be a really good radiologist, right? They need to understand what questions I'm asking and what questions the surgeons are asking. So they do 1 year in either a transitional or a prelim year. And basically it's 1 year of building those fundamental clinical skills so that they have an experience that they can draw from and pull from when they're learning dermatology, radiology, insert the thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have those guys rotating through here. They're only with us for 1 year, but they're really an exceptional group of people too. And you should talk to Pat next.
Yes. Yes.
And then we also have a general surgery program that is in the wings. We have applied for that. There's a very long accreditation process through our accrediting body, the ACGME. So they are undergoing their accreditation process, and we hope to hear about that program in the fall.
Yeah. You don't get to just start this. It's like a whole thing.
It's a process. Yeah. You said you've been working on this for 3 years.
Yeah, surely. Yeah. You write a lot of applications and
it's finally here.
Interviews. Yep.
You did it, girls.
Thank you.
Please. How can patients get involved, whether it's through giving feedback, asking questions, or simply welcoming this new generation of doctors?
So there are lots of answers to that question. So in our practice, we have embedded the resident clinic into our practice. So I still see my own private patients, right? But I asked a subset of my patients if they would be interested in seeing me with a resident and letting that resident be their primary doctor and having me do that really close, kind of thorough supervision. And we let patients opt into that process in our practice. So they'll be seeing them there. What else did you ask? What was the second part of that?
The second part was asking questions or simply welcoming this new generation of doctors, like how can patients get involved in?
So far, this process has been amazing, and the patients have been wonderful and really accommodating because you're booking an hour-long appointment, right? The resident might not be there the whole time, but that in itself, giving of your time and allowing us to spend like an hour of your time in your visit, that is so important. We cannot thank our patients enough. We cannot thank our community enough for that. And then we've also been asking the patients for feedback afterwards.
Yes.
And the feedback from the patients to the residents, because their first day,
right,
their first week, when they're just getting started, they're slow.
Right.
And so, they're writing these notes, they're perseverating over questions that they just haven't seen yet, right? And so it's a very stressful, long day. And like at 7:00 on, at the end of the clinic day, I turned to my residents and I said, okay, I am going home. But here's the feedback from your patients. This is what they thought about you. So while you're sitting here writing these notes painstakingly and wondering if you made the right decision, I want you to see the impact you had on these people today, because this is how they felt about your care. And I think that's really powerful. And so being able to ask that from the community is also a huge gift.
Right, because the patients are actually helping like another patient that would come in because they're able to sit with the resident and really get to the core of like what's wrong and what's going on. And somebody else comes in and the resident's like, hey, wait, I know this, or I know what you need to do. So I love that. We do. We have a beautiful community here. Mm-hmm. People are just so sweet here. They're just such a genuine people in Pittsburgh. How do you envision this program growing or evolving over the next few years?
So the way, just number-wise, that this works is each year 8 new residents will start with our program. So we will have a total of 24 residents as the program grows.
Oh.
But as the program grows, we will seek more feedback from the residents about things we need to tweak and change. I see more quality improvement projects among the residents to really bring up the bar of the care that we provide. As I mentioned, bringing the ideas from various different institutions that they have been at. And we also are adapting and changing a lot of the curriculum that we're doing, not only in response to what we see in terms of signals from the residents, but looking at our quality data from the hospital and information that we get in terms of safety events and signals that we see that we need to teach residents differently. We are evolving and changing our curriculum based on that to adapt to what the needs are of the residents and what our patients need.
Right.
We also are using this opportunity of having residents here to increase and enhance St. Clair's community engagement. And that is something that I think St. Clair does a really good job of at baseline. But in our clinic, we have been going to the Bethel Park Farmers Market, and the residents are there, and we are doing blood pressure checks, and we are answering questions, and we are going to start in 2 weeks giving directed education about things like what dietary changes you could make to lower your cholesterol without starting a new medication.
Right.
Those sorts of things that I think are really important, both for the residents to learn and to get reps in patient communication, right?
Right.
But also to be present in the community on where the power dynamic is not so high and so grand, right? So when you come to a doctor's office, like we're the doctor and you're the patient, right? There's a huge power dynamic there. But when you encounter a doctor sitting at a farmer's market booth, drinking a juice in the hot sun,
Right.
you can have a conversation that's more on a level playing field. It's really important that residents are able to do that and to talk to people like people and not depend on their power dynamic. But it's also really important for the community to see us show up in that way. And so I want to expand that even more.
I love that. That's very interesting. And it is true. Like sometimes I do get intimidated, if I'm talking to a doctor because I'm like, I sound like, I sound like I'm a hypochondriac because I'm like, I have this wrong, I have that wrong. But no, I love that they're doing the farmer's market and they're doing blood pressure because that's, you go up there and, you think you're just going up there for like some produce, but you're like, wait a minute, I can go up because I feel like my blood pressure's high or I feel like I need some questions, or some answers from things that are going wrong with me. So I love that.
Yeah. And it shows that like your doctors, your hospital cares enough about you to take a little time and spend it there, right? I'm not there every week. One of us rotates there through every week, but like it's a way to show that we actually care about you, which again builds that trust. So that when you come in and I have to tell you something you don't want to hear,
yes, yeah,
it makes it a little bit easier because it's coming from a place of genuine care and concern. And we have that trust, we have that relationship. It's just one more way to build that. So
that is so true. Yes, thank you. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share with the patients who may be seeing a resident as part of their care team now or in the future?
I think the main thing that I would like to emphasize is just how much the patients are at the center of everything that we do. They are at the center of why we created these residency programs to really respond to what the community need is in terms of needing to expand primary care. Right. And we wanted to be part of that solution in this region. That's why we're doing things a little bit differently and trying to be creative about how we teach primary care and making it attractive to our residents.
Right.
And I also just want to empower and encourage the patients to participate in the education of the residents, that we would love for them to share their story, give feedback to the residents.
Oh, it's so true.
It is so important in how we teach doctors to communicate and interact with patients differently. Because patients need that from us.
They do. And I love what you said too, because, we really want to feel comfortable. We want to be able to trust our doctor and know that they have our best interest,
right,
at hand. So I thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much. I'm taking it all in. Oh my gosh, I need like a typewriter or something. Aaron, can you write this down for me? Aaron's behind the curtain. What is her?
Yes,
she's
the wizard about it.
Yeah, she's the whiz. So I appreciate so much that you were both here and you were talking to my audience and my listeners just about the teaching and what you're doing here at St. Clair Health. It's just, it's beautiful. It makes me feel like as a patient, because sometimes you're like, there's some people that won't even go to the doctors.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like, what, if you're out there and you don't go see a doctor because you're just like, I don't, have time, or this is the time to do it. This is the time to learn. They are learning about you. It's not just going to be you're in, you're out. Like they are actually here to find out what's going on, find the root of the problem, right?
We really are. And we really appreciate the venue to speak to people. There's a lot of distrust right now of the medical community. And, we work really hard at the job that we do on a daily basis. And we are doing everything we can to instill that in the residents. And so far, the response has been amazing. But we wouldn't have a space to do it if the patients didn't give us the opportunity. And I have been just absolutely humbled and so grateful that my patients have opened themselves up to this, to be able to work with residents and learn with them and teach them. I also went through and cherry picked all the difficult cases that are like medically interesting.
Right.
And, these are people who maybe have had 1 million people listen to their heart throughout their life because they have a fun murmur and they're willing to do it again.
Right.
That's huge. It's really been, the community response has been amazing. Yeah.
I love that. That is so nice. Oh my goodness. So it's so exciting to learn more and better understand this chapter for education and learning at St. Clair. So if you would like to visit stclair.org to learn how residency programs and other education initiatives at St. Clair Health will help to attract, train, and retain the next generation of healthcare professionals who will provide exceptional care right here in our community for years to come. Oh, I'm so excited. Hey, I feel like privileged because I'm like the first one to get it out there. Okay, podcasters. So I feel so privileged to have you both here and to take the time because you're busy and you're training the residents.
This is important.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much because you guys are the voice and you are telling people and telling patients out there that St. Clair is your community college. Community hospital. Jesus, I'm still thinking about Westminster. But I just so appreciate you both. And I appreciate St. Clair Health for sponsoring this episode and expert care for people who care, for doctors who care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Come spill with me.